China just gave a command that sent shockwaves through the global financial system. Stop using the US dollar. 6 words. Simple, direct. But they struck at the very foundation of the modern economic order. For nearly a century, the dollar has been the backbone of global trade, a pillar of American dominance, the invisible hand that guided, and at times controlled, international commerce. And now the world's second-largest economy is walking away from it. This is not a protest. It's not a dispute over currency policy. It's a declaration of independence, a signal that something profound has changed. The era of quiet compliance is over. China is no longer playing by Washington's rules. For years, Beijing tolerated the economic pressure. Sanctions, tariffs, export bans, tech blacklists. The strategic chokeholds meant to stifle its rise. But that tolerance has vanished. The message from China is clear. Enough. Decades of diplomatic restraint are giving way to a new posture. One that is assertive, unapologetic, and deeply strategic. This isn't just a trade spat. It's not about soybeans or steel anymore. The conflict has evolved into something much colder, far more dangerous, an economic Cold War. And now, the United States is reaching for its most potent weapon. Not the military, not surveillance, but the one tool that has underpinned its global dominance since World War II, the dollar. Through it, Washington has projected power across continents, dictated the terms of development, and shaped the fate of nations. Control the dollar, and you control the system. Or at least you used to. In recent weeks, the US turned up the pressure. American officials pushed the Asian Development Bank to cut China off from all loans. Their justification? China is too wealthy to qualify as a developing nation. No more aid, no more preferential treatment. But for Beijing, this wasn't just a matter of classification. It was a public insult, a deliberate humiliation designed to brand China as a global pariah. And Washington didn't stop there. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent began a whirlwind diplomatic campaign, meeting with foreign leaders, financial institutions, and heads of state with a simple ultimatum: cut ties with China, or face consequences. In Spain, a government minister merely suggested a more cooperative posture toward Beijing. Bessent's response was swift and brutal. That would be cutting your own throat. Behind closed doors, the message was even more chilling. Ally or enemy, there is no middle ground anymore. But this campaign isn't just about diplomacy. It's about using the global financial system as a weapon. Institutions like the IMF and the World Bank, created to foster global stability, are now being twisted into instruments of American control. These aren't fringe banks. They are the lifeblood of developing economies, the lenders of last resort. Yet the US is now leveraging them to corner China, to isolate it, to make the cost of disobedience unbearable. And even as Bessent called for unity, Donald Trump, now once again the dominant voice in American foreign policy, undermined the strategy with his trademark volatility. More tariffs, more threats, more chaos. One day he signals reconciliation, the next escalation. Investors are left guessing. Markets are rattled. Allies are confused. The message from Washington has never been more unpredictable or more dangerous. That unpredictability is starting to fracture the very alliances the US depends on. Billionaires once loyal to Trump are quietly backing away. Trade partners are rethinking their dependencies. And across the globe, a dangerous question is beginning to surface. What if we no longer need Washington at all? That single question is what keeps American strategists awake at night. Because the true nightmare isn't just China's defiance, it's the possibility that the rest of the world might follow. If countries begin to build new systems, new financial alliances, new digital currencies, and turn away from the dollar altogether, the very foundation of American global power could crumble. And yet, in the face of all this pressure, China isn't panicking. It's adapting, quietly, methodically, and with stunning efficiency. The Qatar Investment Authority recently acquired a 10% stake in China Asset Management Co., a bold sign from the Middle East that China is still a safe bet. Meanwhile, trade between China and ASEAN nations alone reached $234 billion in the first quarter of 2025. And the Belt and Road Initiative. It now counts nearly 150 participating countries. Despite relentless US pressure, China's influence is expanding, not contracting. But influence is only part of the equation. The battlefield that truly matters now is industrial power. And here China is pulling away. In 2024, manufacturing made up 26% of China's economy and accounted for nearly a third of the world's total output. That's not just industrial strength. That's empire building. Economic conquest through production and scale. And while China ascends, the US continues to deindustrialize. Manufacturing in America now makes up just 10.3% of its GDP, the lowest level since World War II. A nation that once built the world now struggles to build for itself. This is no longer a race for dominance. It's a race against decline. Washington isn't fighting to win. It's fighting to delay the inevitable. Every loan denied to China, every sanction imposed, every ally strong-armed into compliance. It's all part of a desperate attempt to slow down a rising power that refuses to be contained. And China's strategy? It's elegantly simple: produce more, depend less, and outlast the storm. But this storm didn't begin overnight. The real turning point came in 2015, when China quietly released a bold plan, buried beneath the headlines but revolutionary in its vision. It wasn't content to be the world's supplier of cheap consumer goods. It wanted to transform into something more, a global leader in innovation, technology, and advanced manufacturing. The blueprint was sweeping. Aircraft, robotics, electric vehicles, semiconductors, biotech, medical technology. Every major pillar of the future economy. China wanted a stake in all of it. And then, almost silently, that vision began to materialize. The world thought it had time. It didn't. In less than a decade, China leapfrogged entire industries. Its electric vehicle market is now the largest on Earth. Its high-speed rail network covers more ground than the rest of the world combined. In AI, automation, renewable energy, and fintech, Chinese firms are now setting global standards rather than following them. Silicon Valley is no longer the only innovation hub. Shenzhen, Hangzhou, and Beijing are rising fast. By 2025, China's nominal GDP reached $19.22 trillion. But by purchasing power, it surged past $40.7 trillion, making it, in real economic terms, the largest economy on the planet. And that's what truly terrifies Washington. Not just that China is rising, but that it's rising on its own terms, without needing the dollar, without needing American approval. This is more than a power shift. It's a paradigm shift. The unipolar world order that followed the Cold War is ending. A new world is being born, messier, multipolar, more contested. And at the center of it stands a China that no longer seeks permission. The storm has begun, but it's only the beginning. Today, China is no longer just the world's factory. It's becoming the engine room of the global economy, and the implications are seismic. Over 60% of the world's electric vehicles now roll off Chinese assembly lines. The country commands the solar panel market, producing more panels than the rest of the world combined. In 2023 alone, over 300,000 industrial robots were installed across Chinese manufacturing hubs, more than any other nation, automating processes at a pace even advanced economies struggle to match. But this transformation wasn't just the result of ambition or entrepreneurship. What propelled this rise was something far more methodical. A centrally orchestrated economic machine, fueled by the Chinese state. The blueprint was simple but powerful. Factories bankrolled by ultra-low interest loans, companies nurtured through targeted subsidies, and entire sectors shaped by long-term strategic planning. China didn't just upgrade its industries, it reinvented them. The sweatshops of the past have morphed into hyper-modern, hyper-efficient industrial zones. These are not chaotic floors with rows of manual laborers. They are streamlined ecosystems powered by precision logistics, AI-driven production lines, and the ability to scale prototypes into mass production at a speed the West can't begin to match. In cities like Shenzhen, the innovation cycle has been compressed to days. An idea can be pitched on Monday, prototyped by Wednesday, and mass-produced by the weekend. No bureaucracy, no delays, no international outsourcing. Everything is on site, vertically integrated and ruthlessly efficient. The entire industrial engine hums like a single machine. This is China's real advantage, not low wages, which in many cities now rival those in parts of Europe, but in sheer scale, integration, and speed. Meanwhile, the US, still the world's largest economy, has seen its share of global manufacturing shrink to just around 16%. It's a staggering drop for a country that once symbolized industrial might. The global tables have turned. Where China once lagged behind, it now sets the pace, leading not just in production, but increasingly in innovation. That shift has sparked rising anxiety in Washington. This isn't just about economics anymore, it's about power. Manufacturing is national security. It underpins everything. Tanks, satellites, semiconductors, drones, AI systems. Lose control over that, and you don't just lose market share. You risk losing strategic autonomy. That's why the US didn't just respond with concern, it responded with force. Under President Trump, America launched a barrage of tariffs, some reaching 245%, along with sweeping efforts to reshore production and subsidize domestic industry. The goal was to choke China's momentum, to build an economic firewall, and to reassert American industrial supremacy. But China didn't fold, it recalibrated. The Communist Party doubled down on self-reliance. Huawei, once blacklisted, is now producing advanced chips without US technology. BYD, once dismissed as a regional carmaker, has overtaken Tesla in global EV sales. It's pushing aggressively into Europe, South America, Southeast Asia, and even Tesla's backyard. What's happening isn't just competition, it's economic warfare. And Beijing is gaining ground. The boardrooms of Silicon Valley and the halls of Congress are now haunted by a new question. Can the United States truly decouple from China? The answer isn't clear, because this isn't just about trade, it's about control. If China continues to rise, it won't just supply the world, it will start to shape it. The rules of commerce, the standards of technology, the flows of capital, everything could start tilting toward Beijing. And that's Washington's nightmare. In response, a new doctrine emerged. Fortress America. The idea was radical. Build walls, economic, digital, strategic. Raise tariffs, blacklist Chinese tech firms, form exclusive trade alliances that leave China out. The aim wasn't coexistence, it was containment. Cut Beijing out of supply chains. Deny it the tools to dominate the next era. But there's a fatal flaw. America doesn't operate in a vacuum. Its allies, Europe, Japan, South Korea, are deeply intertwined with China's economy. Germany's auto industry is tied to Chinese parts. Japanese electronics rely on Chinese assembly. Even US tech giants source components from Chinese factories. While Washington pushes for decoupling, the global economy is still deeply entangled with China. And the numbers don't lie. In 2024, China exported nearly $3.6 trillion worth of goods. Its trade surplus approached $1 trillion. Far from shrinking, China's presence in global markets is growing. Sanctions didn't suffocate China. They forced it to evolve. Beijing didn't retreat. It started rewriting the global map. Through its Belt and Road Initiative, China is building its own global infrastructure. Ports, highways, data cables, energy grids. But this time, the financing and oversight come not from Washington or Brussels, but from Beijing. It's a parallel system, designed to reduce dependency on Western institutions, and to lock in influence across Asia, Africa, Latin America, and beyond. And now, the next front in this contest is financial, currency. In 2024, the People's Bank of China took a bold step. It raised the target for yuan-based trade settlements from 25% to 40%. That's not just economic fine-tuning. It's a direct challenge to the supremacy of the US dollar. China's total goods trade that year reached 43.8 trillion yuan, around $7.8 trillion. If 40% of that is settled in yuan, that's over $3 trillion in trade bypassing the dollar entirely. This isn't symbolic, it's structural. As more trade flows through the yuan, the global demand for dollars begins to erode. Capital shifts east. Chinese markets grow more attractive to investors. Goldman Sachs estimates that even a 1% appreciation in the yuan could trigger a 3% surge in Chinese equities. This is a zero-sum game. Every dollar that flows into China is a dollar not flowing into Wall Street. If even a fraction of the global trade conducted in dollars switches to yuan, the financial balance of power could tip. China's financial system wouldn't just rise. It could challenge, or even surpass, the dominance of the US-led order. Global capital allocation, investment flows, asset values, everything could shift. The gravitational pull of US markets would weaken. A new center could emerge. While financial markets brace for impact, the real-world battle is already underway. And it's electric. BYD isn't just competing with Tesla, it's waging a pricing war. Its EVs are already affordable. Now it's cutting prices by up to 30%, targeting Tesla across Europe, Asia, and even in the US. This is about more than cars. It's about control over the future of mobility. Battery technology, AI integration, software ecosystems, connected infrastructure. China isn't just selling vehicles, it's laying claim to the entire digital future of transport. This is no longer a trade dispute. It's not just a currency shift, it's a full-spectrum economic counteroffensive. From manufacturing to finance, from AI to EVs, from infrastructure to investment. China is building an alternative global system, faster, cheaper, more coordinated, and with Beijing at its center. The question isn't whether China can withstand the American squeeze. It's whether the rest of the world, willingly or reluctantly, will begin to follow its lead.